Okay, solve for the missing side. So we have two sides and we're trying to find the third side. Now, some of you kind of caught up on the pattern from your homeworks and from what we talked about yesterday, but your fallback plan, since this is a right triangle, we can use Pythagorean theorem, x squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. So we get 2x squared equals 144. Divide by 2 on both sides. X squared equals 72. Take the square root of both sides. And this is the square root of 36 times the square root of 2. So we get 6 square roots of 2. Do the side lengths form a triple? Yes or no? In order for them to form a triple, first thing we have to check for, are they whole numbers? Yes, the answer is. Okay. Second thing we need to check for, does 3 squared plus 8 squared equal 12 squared? It's a question mark. So this is 9 plus 64. Well, this is 73. Does that equal 144? These are not equal to each other, so not a triple. So step 1, are they whole numbers? 9, 40, and 41. The answer is yes. Second thing you have to check is 9 squared plus 40 squared equal to 41 squared. And the answer is yes. Of right triangles. Yesterday we talked about anytime we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the sides always get labeled. When we have 45, 45, 90 triangle, we do S, S, S squared to 2. That's kind of the pattern it follows. So on this triangle here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to label the triangle. So S, S, S square roots of 2. Okay, we're going to circle the side we were given. So in our case, we were given 8, so we're going to circle the 8 and the S together. 3, we're going to set up an equation. Well, that means that the letter S, that variable, is equal to 8. Step 4 is to solve, but we don't have to solve this because it's already done for us. Last but not least, let's plug it back in and get the remaining sides. So E to D is S, well S is 8. D to F is S squared to 2, so that's just going to be, we just replace the S with 8, it's going to be 8 times the square root of 2. We're going to follow these steps throughout. So here's another 45, 45, 90 triangle. So first step is to label. So I'm going to label my sides S, S, those are my legs, and the hypotenuse gets S square roots of 2. Second thing, circle the given. So in this case, I'm given S square roots of 2 and 15 square roots of 2. 3. We need an equation. So we're going to write what we labeled it as, S square roots of 2, and we're going to set that equal to 15 square roots of 2. Now, step 4, we're going to solve. We don't really have to solve this one because if you look, what's on both sides of the equal sign? The square root of 2, which means that the square root of 2 cancels with each other, and what are we left with? S equals 15. So I go back up to my picture. If I want to find n to E is equal to S, and S is 15. E to W is equal to S, and S is 15. So that one, you don't even have to really set up an equation. You can kind of just see from the picture. I'm just following a method. Step 5 was to plug in, which we just did. Okay, let's do something a little bit tougher. So first thing, let's label our triangle. This is a 45, 45, 90 triangle still. So we're going to label the sides S, S, S square roots of 2. Second step, circle the given. Third step, let's set up an equation. In this case, our equation is going to be S squared roots of 2 equals 22. Now, step 4, I'm just going to write over here on the side, is to solve this equation. So we need to get s by itself. In order to get s by itself, we have to get rid of the square root of 2. Well, this is s times the square root of 2. So if it's multiplication, how do you get rid of multiplication? You do the opposite, which is division. So we're going to divide both sides by the square root of 2. Those cancel. Well, in math, 22 divided by the square root of 2 is not proper way to write this answer. So we have to do this thing called rationalizing the denominator. Some of you guys looked this up and some of you guys learned this in Algebra 1. I did put this on a previous homework. So rationalizing the denominator is just a fancy way to say I need to multiply this equation by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. The reason why I picked the square root of 2 over the square root of 2 is because the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2 is just the number 1, so we're not changing the size. And then secondly, the whole point of doing this is look at what happens with the denominator. What's the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? That ends up being the square root of 4. But we know the square root of 4 is just regular whole number 2. So look in the denominator. Do you see how the square root sign disappeared? That's what we want to happen. And then we multiply our numerators together. 22 times the square root of 2 is just going to be 22 square root of 2. And then we see, can anything else reduce? Well, if I look outside the radical sign, 22 divided by 2, that can reduce, so that's 11. So what's s going to equal? 11 square roots of 2. What's step 5? Plug it in. So when I go look at j to k is s, and we found out that s is just 11 square roots of 2. And we found out that KL is s, and s is just 11 square roots of 2. Now, some of you can pick up on the pattern, and I know we've been doing a lot of these in our homeworks. So if you know the pattern and you don't have to set up all the equations, then you're good to go for most of them. There is a reason. Look at here. If you look, how did I get 11 square roots of 2 from 22? There's a reason. It's a pattern that we talked about. All right, now let's look at 30, 60, 90 triangles. Remember we said anytime we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle, okay, this is our 30-degree angle, which makes this our short leg. That's going to be A. Remember we said our hypotenuse was going to be 2A. And then our longer leg was always going to be A square roots of 3. It's important that you remember this is your short leg. This is your longer leg. And this is your hypotenuse. Okay, you can't mess up the order in which the letters go. They go in a specific order. So where's my short leg on here? Well, my short leg has to be across from the smallest angle. My smallest angle is 30 degrees. So even though the picture looks like EW is your short leg, it's not. Your short leg is across here. So my short leg, this is my A. My hypotenuse will be my 2A because it's always going to be double. And then across from the 60-degree angle, that's my largest, my medium-sized angle, that gets you the longer leg, which is going to be A square roots of 3. So you can't go off of looks. You have to use your brain and your common sense here. Okay, so step 1, label. Step 2, we need to circle our given. So our givens here, that we got the double A is 14. So step 3 is your equation, or you can use your common sense. We know that 2A is equal to 14. Step 4, solve. Well, if 2 times A is equal to 14, divide both sides by 2, and you get A has to be 7. Step 5, plug in. So N to E is A on our picture, and A is just 7. And E to W is A times the square root of 3 when we know A is 7, so it's just going to be 7 times the square root of 3 is my answer. Okay, if I come over here and look at this example, again, you can't just assume that the picture looks correct. So we need to find the short leg. The short leg's across from the 30-degree angle. So this is 30 degrees. So here's my short leg. That's going to be A. My hypotenuse is twice that size, 2A. And then across from the 60-degree angle is my longer leg. That's A square roots of 3. Step 2, circle the given. Step 3, set up an equation. Step 4, solve. Okay, so here's my given. My equation is going to be A square roots of 3. A times the square root of 3 equals 12. Multiplication, how do you get rid of multiplication? We divide both sides by the square root of 3. So we can get A alone. Those cross out. We have to do this thing called rationalizing the denominator because we can't have a square root of 3 in the denominator. So we have to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. That number is just the number 1. And what it does for us, it helps us get rid of the radical in the denominator. Whenever we multiply fractions together, we multiply the denominators together and the numerators. So in the denominator, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, but the square root of 9 is just whole number 3. And then in our numerator, this is 12 square roots of 3, so we write 12 square roots of 3. It's in our numerator. And then we check, does anything reduce? Well, 12 over 3 are both outside the radical. So 12 over 3 reduces to 4. So the answer, A, has to equal 4 times the radical 3, or square roots of 3. And step 5 is just to plug it back into our sides. So F to U is A in our picture, and A is just 4 radical 3, 4 times square root of 3. And F to T is twice that amount. Well, what's double 4 square roots of 3? That's just going to be 8 square roots of 3. Okay, let's try this example. We find the 30-degree angle. 30 degrees is right here. We go across from that. That's our A. We found our hypotenuse. That's our 2A. And then across from the 60-degree angle, that's always going to be our longer leg, which is A square roots of 3. Why don't you try this example on your own? Pause the video. Circle the given. Set up an equation. We know this side, A square roots of 3, is equal to 12. This is A times the square root of 3. Well, we need to get rid of the square root of 3 because we want to isolate the A. The opposite of multiplication is division, so divide both sides by the square root of 3. Those cancel. We have square root of 3 in the denominator. We can't have a square root in the denominator. We multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3 this time. Multiply the denominators together. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just going to be whole number 3. And then on the top we have 12 square roots of 3. Oh, and this is the same example as before. 12 over 3 reduces to 4 square roots of 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasted your time. If you wanted, you could change the number 12 to something else and try again. You could change it to 18 if you wanted. So step 5, let's plug it in. So x is just A, and A is 4 square roots of 3. And y is twice that amount, which we said will be 8 square roots of 3.